Let's take this show on the road. Hails, minions and mortals, this is Fang from Lords of the Trident. You've spent the last 3 to 5 years conquering your local markets, your top dog in your hometown, and maybe you're even relatively well known regionally. So what's next for the band? Well, expanding your influence and gaining more fans. And that means touring. A word that brings joy to the inexperienced and potential sorrow and dread to the jaded road warriors. Don't get me wrong, touring isn't all that bad. It can really bring a band together, but it can also really split a band apart. You and your bandmates are going to experience stressors on the road that normally you would never, ever experience. For example, breaking down in rural West Virginia, missing the pivotal Friday night show that would have saved you from debt, being towed to a trailer park that has a mechanics in the middle, listening to 6.5 hours of country music while a mechanic with 3 teeth tries in vain to fix your 1994 Ford E350 and then finds out that the parts you need is nowhere to be found and they're going to have to order it from China, which is probably going to take about a week and a half, which means that you're stuck potentially in rural West Virginia for a week and a half, and so you break down crying in the middle of a trailer park. But as Fang has always said, you're not a real band until you've broken down crying in a West Virginian trailer park. So how do you prevent most of the issues that come up when touring, and how do you plan a successful tour? Well, Fang's gonna tell you. As Sun Tzu, the author of Art of War, states, never bring your country to war unless you already know the outcome. And this means planning for everything. Make sure you have at least 6 months to contact the venues, get a date booked, contact the other bands, and find out where you're going to be staying each night. Before you set up to go out on tour, ask yourself these questions. Can all of the band members realistically take a week or more off of work? Can you stand to spend every waking moment with every single one of your band members? No, I'm just kidding, I love the guys. Do you have a reliable merch person who you trust? Do you have a reliable vehicle that can hold your band members, your merch, and your equipment comfortably? Do you have an extra $800 in the band fund for when that reliable vehicle breaks down? Do you have a trailer? And by the way, U-Haul is always an option at $20 a day. Do you have enough merch to sell on the road? Do you have enough sizes of your t-shirts? Do you have enough copies of your CD? How much, realistically, do you think you can make or sell per night on the road? Okay, but how about on a Tuesday night when you're playing to 3 people? How much can you make then? How far are you willing to drive each day? Is there at least one level-headed, fully functional adult in the band who can make the tough decisions on the road? And hopefully 2? Did you get your AAA Gold membership yet? No, really do it. It's totally worth it. Once you've answered those questions, you can start planning your trip. But first and foremost, buy this book, Tour Smart by Martin Atkins. It is the Bible for touring bands. If you've already read the book, you know what's coming next, the spreadsheet. You're going to want to set up a shared spreadsheet with all of the information that you could possibly want or need on the road. I'd recommend setting this up in Google Docs and sharing it with the rest of the band, because then you can access it from anybody's smartphone. Inside of the spreadsheet, you're going to want to include information like venue name, address, distance from last venue, contact name, email, and phone number, website, address of where you're sleeping, load-in time, set link, other band names, miles per gallon of the van, and gas cost. You might also want to make a separate tab or sheet to log expenses and revenue while on the road, as well as a third sheet for maybe an overall budget overlook. The way that we have our sheet set up is that it would take into account the revenue from the night before, and it would calculate what our break-even amount for this night was, the amount to shoot for. This was incredibly helpful for the rest of the members of the band because you could tell them, like, look, I know we made $300 last night, but we're still $78 in the hole from the start. So quit dicking around and go sell some CDs, for God's sake. Once you've got your spreadsheet together, you can start to look for places where you can cut costs. Are you going to restaurants to eat every day? That's pretty expensive. One of the ways that we cut down on costs is by giving our members a $10 per diem, but using all of that at local grocery stores to buy bread, deli meat, cheese, and just general snacks. We were able to basically feed everybody with pretty hefty sandwiches on about $2.75 a day. That's pretty darn good. You'll also need a cooler and a daily supply of ice for said cooler while on the road. Also, make sure to bring a ton of water and soda if you're into that sort of thing. Keeping hydrated on the road is incredibly important, especially if you're a band that, drinks heavily every night. Okay, this is the most important piece of advice I can give you for touring on the road. For Dio's sake, buy a blow-up bed. A single-person double-decker blow-up bed is like $35 on Amazon. You're going to be crashing in random places every night, often on uncomfortable hard surfaces. So having a bed that will inflate in under a minute is an absolute must. These things come with pumps. They'll auto-inflate, they'll auto-deflate, and in a minute you will be in heaven. Just remember to bring pillows and blankets for everybody too. Try your hardest to avoid booking a hotel room for the night. If possible, stay with one of the other bands, stay with a fan in the area, or heck, even stay with the promoter. Hotel rooms can cost, roughly $150 a night, and when you're making $70 in Omaha on a Tuesday, that's kind of an expense you can't justify. Also, if your plans fall through, and they will, try to avoid sleeping in the van at all costs. It's either too hot or too cold, it's cramped, and you're gonna wake up feeling just gross, full of gig sweat. It's gonna drive the band to crazy town. Friends don't let friends sleep in the van. If you're a band from Midwest USA somewhere and you're planning your first tour out to San Francisco, you're doing it wrong. And here's why. Take a map of the United States and draw a line directly down the middle. Count the number of major cities to the left of that line and major cities to the right of that line. You see what I'm getting at? 90% of the population areas that you're gonna wanna hit are east, not west. And I know, California dreaming and all that sort of stuff, but trust me, it's a heck of a lot easier to drive 2-3 hours between major cities going east than to drive 14-15 hours between major cities going west. Not to mention, way cheaper. Also, apologies to all the Canadian viewers who are getting this US-centric stuff, but honestly, a lot of this also applies to you guys too. I mean, do the same thing with your map. We played with a band who shall remain nameless from Seattle, Washington, and we played with them on the second night of their tour in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's like 22 hours of driving from Seattle to Cincinnati. And then their next night on tour was in Denver, Colorado, which is another 16 hours back the other way. That is the dumbest tour I have ever heard of. I can't even imagine how much they spent in gas, and they were all completely wiped, and trust me, their performance suffered for it. And now the miscellanea. A couple of other items that you'll want to bring on tour include sample-sized toothpaste, soaps, shampoo, conditioner, contact solution. You can steal a lot of these from hotels, and again, you never know the condition of where you're going to stay, so this is a must-have. Febreze for the gross fan. Throat coat tea for your singer. Locks for your trailer and your trailer's hitch. Spare keys for those locks. Hey, who's got the trailer key? You do. A cash box with locks and spare keys, of course. Something to do on the long drive, so like ebooks, video games, regular old paper books. Something to do while you wait hours and hours for your car to be fixed at the mechanic, so like Cards Against Humanity, maybe? Extra chargers and cables for your cell phone. Neck pillows for sleeping on the way to venues, but not for the person who's driving, clearly. A good assortment of new, yet unheard albums to critique on the road while you're driving. And a backup of that thing that always breaks. So, guitar amp, cable, hopefully not guitar. You will forget things, and your van will break down despite your best efforts. But if you keep things realistic and you plan ahead, you should be able to buffer pretty much anything unexpected that comes to you on the road. And the best thing about touring is it reminds you of how amazing humanity can be. For example, when we were broken down in West Virginia, there were two strangers we didn't even know who let us stay at their house for 2 full days while we waited for our car to be fixed. That was incredibly kind of them. They definitely didn't have to do that. And, it's something that we can never really repay, and it's something I'll always remember. I will also always remember weeping uncontrollably in the middle of a trailer park surrounded by country music. Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful. As always, these videos are made possible by all of our fantastic people on Patreon at patreon.com/Lords of the Trident. If you want to see us come to your hometown and melt your faces, jump on the Patreon and let us know. And as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you on the road.